Hola, buenos dias. Mi nombre es Emily Kaisinga. Good morning on this beautiful spring day. My name is Emily Kaisinga, and my pronouns are she, her, and I serve gratefully as a member of the worship arts team. It is my joy to welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno, California. Welcome to everyone on our virtual church campus. Welcome to everyone on our Alluvial Avenue church campus, and welcome to everyone savoring the service later on Facebook or YouTube. We are truly one congregation in many places. Our monthly worship theme for April is the path of resistance. Today we will explore how we are called to resist injustice and oppression with our special guest speaker, Timothy McManus, senior organizer of the Central Valley Industrial Areas Foundation, an emerging collaboration of faith communities, nonprofits, and unions organizing to collectively work for social justice in Fresno and the Central Valley. We acknowledge that our Alluvial Avenue church campus sits within the traditional homelands of the Yokits people, who are the past, present, and future stewards of this land. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe inclusivity is a spiritual practice. You are welcome, no matter your race, culture of origin, age, spiritual background, or religious beliefs. You and your neurodiversity are welcome here. This is a safe spiritual place, no matter your level of formal education, the amount of money in your bank account, or your disabilities. We celebrate the rainbow of diversity that includes those of us who are lesbian, gay, bi, transgender, non-binary, gender fluid, or straight. You are welcome with or without documentation. All are welcome here. Todos son bienvenidos aquí. If you are on our virtual campus and want your joys, sorrows, concerns, or gratitude included in today's service, just text them to us at 559-209-4977. That's 559-209-4977. You can also type them into the chat box. But you have to do it right now so we have time to gather them to share later in the service. Be sure to text your name as well so we know who you are. Now, in our Alluvial Avenue sanctuary, in the chat box, or in the silence of our hearts, let's take a moment to say buenos dias and greet one another. And to shake it up a little this morning, let's share with each other something you really like about the season of spring. I'm loving the beautiful flowers in my backyard. Thank you.
I think spring has made everybody chatty this morning. Buenos dias. Oh, come on, you can do better than that. Buenos dias. Buenos dias. Mi nombre es Timoteo, and my pronouns are he, him, and I serve gratefully as minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno. Today, as we explore resistance, we're going to invite you to begin in that still place that knows you are stronger than you're willing to admit out loud. And this morning we have a special musical treat. Nuachiku making her debut on their Alluvial Avenue campus. So let's allow the sound of the tingsha to carry us into that place of strength.
Two, three, four.
Taken all that you can take, and you're sure you're never gonna catch a break, and the tears are rivers running down your face. Yeah, when your faith is low and you got no strength left, when you think you've gone as far as you can get, and you're too worn down to take another step. Oh, I will take up the struggle. I know it's a fight, so I'll fight that war for you. I'll fight, stand and defend you, take your side. That's what I'm here to do. I'll be there to be strong. Oh, I'll keep on, keep on. Just takes another piece of you. Everybody takes all they can get from you, till you're left with almost nothing left of you. Oh, when each night is like a battle you can't win, and the pain is like a weight you're carrying, I will be the one to help you carry it. Oh, I will take on your struggles. Oh, I know it's a fight, so I'll fight that war for you. I'll fight, stand and defend you, take your side. That's what I'm here to do. I'll be there to be strong. Oh, I'll keep on, keep on the fight. I'll have your back when your back's to the wall. I'll catch the tears when your tears fall. I'll give it all, I won't give up the fight. So I'll fight that war for you. I'll fight, stand and defend you, take your side. That's what I'm here to do. I'll be there to be strong. Oh, I'll keep on, keep on. I'll fight that war for you. I'll fight, stand and defend you, take your side. That's what I'm here to do. I'll be there to be strong. Oh, I'll keep on, keep on. I'll fight.
Greetings, everyone. Mi nombre es Ida Jones. My name is Ida Jones, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. I serve gratefully as a member of the worship arts team. If you have a candle or chalice with you on the virtual campus, bring it close as we'll be lighting it soon. We hope you might choose to bring this lighting ritual into your home. I want to tell you a story about a friend, and that leads to the issue that I want to highlight today. Carla and I met about 40 years ago in, of all things, an online chat room, Fresno BBS for those of you who might remember it. When we met, it was friendship at first sight. She was warm, intelligent, perceptive, empathetic, and welcoming. She was a travel agent, and she'd kidnap me and take me on adventures throughout the state of California. But when she first became ill, I urged her to go to the doctor, and she did. Unfortunately, she could not get the diagnostic tests that the doctor said were needed to determine what was wrong. And that was because, although she'd worked hard all of her life, she was a self-employed travel agent and, as such, did not have the money or the health insurance to take the additional tests. Finally, one day she was unable to get out of bed. So I rushed to her house, we contacted the ambulance, and she was taken to the hospital where she had those diagnostic tests. Unfortunately, she was very, very ill with cancer, and she was given 6 months to live. She lasted 4. Justice is not served when individuals can't get health care. So one of the areas where I resist the system is in actively fighting for CalCare, Medicare for all. No one should have to die for lack of access to health care. To me, that's a basic requirement to honor the inherent worth and dignity of every human being. In this spirit, I invite you to light your chalice or candle at home. And as you can see, my candle is very well lit. Tim, would you kindle the flame in our Alluvial Avenue chalice?
From your light in Reno, Nevada in an automobile to Alluvial
Let us
Ave.
rise now in body or spirit and join in singing the song of praise, Come and Go With Me to That Land.
Please rise.
2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. With me to that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. Where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. Freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. Justice in that land where I'm bound. They'll be singing in that land. They'll be singing in that land. They'll be singing in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. They'll be singing in that land. They'll be singing in that land. Singing in that land where I'm bound.
I invite us to remain standing as we say together our mission statement. La misión de la Iglesia Unitaria Universalista de Fresno es amar inclusivamente, crecer espiritualmente, servir con gratitud y trabajar por la justicia. The mission of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno is to love inclusively, grow spiritually, serve gratefully, and work for justice. Please be seated. Last June, our congregation unanimously voted to adopt an 8th principle to our existing 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism. Our new 8th principle challenges us as individuals, as a congregation, and as a larger denomination to address the hard work of dismantling white supremacy culture and other oppressions within ourselves, and within this congregation. Here is our board president, vice president, Troy Polnitz, reflecting on the 8th principle.
The 8th principle resonates with me in so many different ways. As a church leader, also as a Black man, it is so important that we engage in this principle and that we fully engage this principle. The most attractive piece for me is the implicit bias. We need to unearth these implicit biases. And just because we begin to unearth them and they feel uncomfortable does not mean that we are racist. It just means that there's work to be done in the way that we're understanding one another. Also, white supremacy culture. We need to be able to call that out for what it is. We need to be able to talk about it. I remember being in kindergarten and a young girl telling me that she couldn't be my friend because she was white and that I was Black. And that culture starts at home. Our kids are learning this culture at home, and it's important for us as a congregation to not only recognize that, but to work to actively dismantle it. When we're working to actively dismantle it, we need to be able to find the language for when we do see or observe something racist. The language of how to call it out, how to invite conversation, I think is very important as well. And that's a skill set that needs to be built very intentionally. And I believe the 8th principle will help us do that as a congregation.
Starting on Thursday, May 4th at 6 p.m. on Zoom, we invite you to join Karen Polnitz for an exploration into the individual and community work we all need to dive into more fully to live into our 8th principle. You'll have the opportunity to make connections on Zoom. You don't even have to leave your home, between microaggressions and systemic injustice, and develop techniques for having difficult conversations. Our governing board as a whole will be participating in this important workshop. It's that important that they're all going to attend, and the governing board is hoping you will as well. So let's take in a deep breath, breathing in peace, pas, and breathing out love, amor. Again, taking a nice centering breath in, we breathe in peace, we breathe out love. One more time together. We breathe in peace, we hold a moment, we breathe out love. As we continue breathing together, I invite you to imagine that that precious breath that's coming in and out can also carry you back over the last week, the last 7 days of your living. A gift that you were given, we were given. And as our mind drifts back over that last week, 2 questions. In the last week, what troubled your spirit? In the last week, what nurtured your spirit? Each week, we create the space and we hold it together where we can bring those parts of ourselves that are troubled, that are hurting, that feel broken or just a little sharp. We also create the space to bring our joy, our gratitude, our delight. Some of us on our virtual campus texted some of those joys or sorrows or concerns or gratitudes. Others of us here on Alluvial Avenue just stopped at the small table that's at the entranceway to this sanctuary and wrote it down on a small card. And oh my, we've got a lot alive within us today. Andrew Livingstone wants to share that his joy of the spring is that he saw the Master Gardener's home tour yesterday, all those beautiful gardens. Ali is happy to have my friend Joanna join us this morning. Also want to thank everyone who helped with Earth Day Fresno. It was a great success. We missed Dawn yesterday, but her spirit was very present yesterday. And Connie also is celebrating Earth Day and wants to thank the voice of the earth, Bill Murphy, musicians Lorenzo Bassman and Chris Eacock, and to Ali, who picked up and carried high the torch for Dawn DeLozier. Jim is celebrating. He had Joy Monday with the UU Men's Fellowship. Dominic is feeling very grateful. He says, I'm thankful to all the support and love that members in our wonderful UU Fresno family have shown to Cleo and me. And we surround you with so much love, Dominic. We love you. Frank had a good week in the courts. Jamie Jones sends gratitude and love to the congregation, and we send that right back out to Jamie. Evan Ship, joyful, another Earth Day celebration. Now we have a trinity of Earth Day celebrations in this Unitarian church. Joy that on Earth Day there were so many that are in the struggle to protect our earth from those who seek profit over environmental harmony. And Millie is celebrating gratitude, doing better with double fracture of her humerus, and plans on coming to service next Sunday. I'm so grateful for Zoom, and Millie, we are sending you love, prayers, and healing. We also lift up our beloveds, those who are unable to be with us this morning because of health or mobility, including Tony E., Margaret H., Bev F., Edith H., William H., Glenda R., and Pat M. And I know it's been said, but I want to say it again because I had a slide for it. Looking beyond our congregation, we celebrate that Earth Day was yesterday, and I also want to celebrate that Earth Day Fresno began so many years ago on this church campus until it grew too big to be housed here. And also just want to note, we're delaying our Earth Day service till next week in order to accommodate next week's special guest speaker and his schedule, Valley Farmer, beloved and acclaimed author, and notable Fresno resident, Masamoto. As April begins to fade into memory, we also acknowledge that the end of Arab American Heritage Month is on its way as well, but we celebrate that this upcoming tomorrow, Monday, begins Lesbian Visibility Week, and so we celebrate that visibility. And so, for all that's been spoken, and for everything that on this morning is in your heart, in the silence of your precious heart, we light our candle of community. This morning, as is our custom, we celebrate the life of one of our friends and members. We do this to celebrate at the first anniversary of someone's passing. Today, we lift up the beautiful light and life of Jason Bernardi. I just love that picture and his smile. And I asked a dear friend of Jason here in Fresno to reflect on Jason, and they wrote, Jason was an amazing man with a gentle heart. He spent most of his adult life working with seniors and brightened their days by playing his guitar and singing with and for them. Jason was a very spiritually enlightened person, and while his loving husband Jay would tell you that music was Jason's heart, I would beg to differ. Jay was Jason's heart. And so we celebrate Jason's life, and we celebrate the long and loving marriage between Jason and Jay. And we light this candle on Jason's behalf and in memory. It seems so fitting after talking about Jason that our call to meditation is our beloved Spirit of Life, Fuente de Amor.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Fuente de amor, ven hacia mí. Y al corazón, cántale tu compasión. Sopla volar, sube el amor, hasta moldear la justicia de la vida. Allégame, libérame, fuente de amor, ven a mí, ven a mí.
Our words of prayer or reflection come from Alla Renee Bozarth, who identifies as a descendant of Russian, Celtic, and Native American heritage. Their words are entitled, "The Small Plot of Ground," a prayer for Earth Day. The Great Spirit speaks, saying, "The small plot of ground on which you were born cannot be expected to stay forever the same. Earth changes, and home becomes different places. You took flesh from clay, but the clay did not come from just one place. To feel alive, important, and safe, know your own waters and hills, but know more. You have stars in your bones and oceans in your blood. You have a proposing to reign in each eye. You belong to the land and the sky of your first cry. You are infinity.
Before.
I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, and just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gon' come. Oh, yes, it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gon' come. Oh, yes, it will. I go to the movie and I go downtown. Somebody keeps telling me don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gon' come. Oh, yes, it will. Then I go to my brother and I say, brother, help me please. But he winds up knocking me back down on my knees. Oh, there've been times when I thought I couldn't last for long, but now I think I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gon' come. Oh, yes, it will.
Nuachaku. Nuachaku, that song sat so beautifully in your voice. What a gift. Thank you so much. Our reading this morning comes from a really wonderful Unitarian Universalist, Alicia Ford, the professional development director at the Unitarian Universalist Association, who identifies as an African descent, queer, cisgendered female with deep roots in Tobago. Alicia Ford writes, "When we pause to remember who we are, companions on this grand experiment of life, when we take a moment to shed the ways we've been carefully taught to lead from fear, to punish the poor, to persecute those who don't look like we do, to deny the rights to those who love, to believe that we are separate, that some people are superior to others. When we take a moment to shed all of that and hear our stories, hear and see each other into existence, into community, when we take a moment to embrace, to practice a different way of being, when we answer the call of love, then we are living into the promise of building the world we dream about. It is beautiful to dream, to cast a vision, to stretch our minds into the future and imagine what may be if we were to build a new way of being. Not someday, but beginning again today, beginning again every day that we have breath, taking courage with these hands and our hearts to make real the dream of a more equitable world, to journey together, seeking to be transformed even as we are transformed. Becoming explorers and learners in this world around us, humbled by what we do not yet know, fulfilling the promise of healing a fragmented world, laboring not just in hope, but also in love. Here ends our reading. We're going to sing, and this is a song that in the 14 months when our Alluvial Avenue campus was shut down during the height of the pandemic, this is a song we sang over and over from our individual homes, joining together in one community. We shall be known. Please rise and body your spirit.
2, 3, 4.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circled round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now, it is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circled round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now, it is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves within the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
seated. We're going to give the band a moment to exit. I love that lyric. In this great turning of time, we shall learn to lead in love. And speaking of leading in love, I am truly excited to welcome our special guest speaker this morning, Tim McManus. Tim has been an organizer with the Industrial Areas Foundation, also known as IAF, since 2009. With the IAF, Tim has worked with IAF projects in Texas, Arizona, and California. And just listen to some of the things that he has accomplished in those places during this time. He's currently supervising organizing work in the Monterey Bay region in Phoenix, and here in a newly developing IAF project in the Central Valley. Here he is doing organizing work that involves training and developing congregational and institutional leaders, teaching them how to work together in their region to affect the common good. And again, this is some of just what Tim has accomplished. His organizing and leadership work has led to Medicaid expansion in Arizona, increased funding for after-school programs, parks, and libraries in several cities, protections from immigration raids by law enforcement, local strategies for dealing with mass incarceration, and the creation of county health programs for undocumented immigrants. Tim was recently part of a small delegation of organizers, priests, and lay leaders who met with Pope Francis in the Vatican to discuss this important justice work. Tim has a BA in theology from Boston College, a place I know well, and a Master of Education from Notre Dame. He lives in Gilroy with his wife, Marie, a bilingual speech therapist for students with mental and behavioral disabilities, and their 3 young children. Please welcome a true friend of this congregation, Tim McManus.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you to all of you for welcoming me today. I have some remarks prepared or some things I wanted to talk about, but honestly, I could have just sat through your worship and been inspired by the stories that I've heard and the questions you've posed to each other and the things you're reflecting on, and found the words to respond to that during our time today. It's been a beautiful service so far, and I'm really grateful to be a part of it. So I began my time as an organizer with the IF in Dallas, Texas, as Tim mentioned. I was teaching high school there, and I was living in and teaching in and going to church in a neighborhood that had been neglected for decades in the city of Dallas. And everything kind of came to a head when there was a car fire outside of our church, and it took 20 minutes for the police to respond, and the person passed away in their car because of that failed response time. So our church called a meeting. I was at church one Sunday, and in our bulletin it said, come on out on Tuesday night to a meeting to talk about safety in our neighborhood. And so I showed up at this meeting, not knowing what to expect, but what I witnessed, I walked into this meeting, and yes, the city councilwoman and the police chief and representatives from the city were there, but they weren't the ones running the meeting. Instead, the people running the meeting were these women from my church, these grandmothers, these singers from the choir, these ushers. They were the ones running the meeting. They had the agenda, and they looked across the table to the city officials, and they told these powerful stories of what had been going on in our neighborhood, stories about drug houses and stray dogs that would just wander the neighborhood and terrorize people, and they told the story about the car fire and alleyways that hadn't been cleared in years. And then they made proposals and said, here's what we'd like you to do. In 2 weeks, we want that drug house shut down, and we want the alleyways cleared. And we want a commitment from the police chief to meet with us and to develop a new style, a new approach to policing in the city of Dallas. And to my amazement, I watched one by one as each of the city officials said yes to what was asked of them, And then within a few weeks, we had all those things they asked for. And we started to see real change in our neighborhood as a result of that meeting. I was blown away by that. And, for years, I've been trying to figure out how you make change, how you make real sustainable change, and how you do so in a way that respects local communities, that puts people affected by issues right at the center of creating change. And here is my first opportunity to witness that. So after experiencing that, I started to get involved with IF organizing in Dallas, and as Tim read out, I left after many years of teaching, left teaching to go into organizing there in Dallas, and then in Arizona, and about 10 years ago came out to California. And then a couple of years ago, now I've been coming out to the Central Valley to work with leaders like you, clergy, and other religious leaders here to build a new chapter of the IF in the Central Valley. One thing I've learned about this model of organizing, one thing I've learned about what this is, what the IF is it's a tradition. It's a tradition of trying to achieve change in the community. Each of our organizations are local, they're independent, they have their own agendas, they identify what's going on locally, they're led by local people, but they're part of a long tradition of trying to create change, of trying to achieve justice in communities, inspired by people, pastors, ministers, organizers, lay leaders that for decades have been striving for that. One of those people who has really shaped how we understand organizing and how we understand justice and change, and it has had a big impact on my life, is the great civil rights organizer and sometimes overlooked leader in the civil rights movement, Ella Baker. Ella Baker was one of the true heroes, not just of the civil rights movement, but really of American democracy and American society. And I want to spend our time this morning just reflecting on some of what she understood so well and taught and instilled in the movement that we hope to carry on today and that we should strive for and continue to follow today. If you're not familiar with Ella Baker, she started her professional career in organizing with the NAACP before later joining the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and starting SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. When she started with the NAACP, she had this insight and this understanding that the movement was going to advance by real training and leadership development of people. That's what really gave birth to what we understand and we know from the sit-ins and a lot of civil rights organizing, was this real investment in people. It's real investment in people. And so she got approved, and she got the NAACP to approve a training strategy where she went around the country week after week after week training people. And the title for her training, the title for the training that she did was Give Light and the People Will Find a Way. Give light and the people will find a way. She had this deep belief that people, ordinary people in our communities, can do this, can change things. They don't need some superstar. They don't need some charismatic leader, counter to the memory of the civil rights movement, that this idea that charismatic leaders are what's needed to make change. No, she didn't see that. She thought real ordinary people, they can learn this, they care about it, and they can do it, and they can achieve change. One of the people who went through one of these trainings with Ella Baker was Rosa Parks. And there were many other people like Rosa Parks who went through, received this training, were invested in and developed and trained, and then at the local level made things happen. So the first insight that's critical to what Ella Baker and others understood, and we try to pass along, is this real investment. You want to achieve justice, invest in the development of people. Invest in leadership development at the local level. And good people will know what to do. This is the story of the women in my church leading the way for us in South Dallas, making change. But that's the story of how justice gets achieved. The second insight that I want to draw from that is connected to the first, is that people will then further their leadership by real true participation in the decision-making of an organization, in their own investment in the organization. So she would try to build these structures where people had to interact with each other, and they had to learn how to make decisions together, and to create kind of this democratic culture within organizations so that people had to learn how to negotiate and work together and figure things out and make decisions. She was really, really against the idea of a large kind of top-down national structure. And it's actually why she parted ways eventually with the NAACP, was she was frustrated by the idea of a large kind of national organization She wanted these local entities where people could really deliberate with each other and learn how to be leaders and learn how to organize together. Third insight from her work, recruitment. All she did when she would get into a local community is recruit and work and go door to door or church to church or organization to organization and look for people and talk to them and engage with them. This is where the title for today's lesson, today's sermon comes from. Ella Baker referred to this as spade work. Anybody ever landscaped? Anybody garden here? All right, what's spade work like? It's hard. It is hard. I spent my summers landscaping growing up, and yeah, you get a shovel and you just dig, and you just keep digging, and you think you've dug deep enough, and you haven't. You got to go further, and then you hit a root, or then you hit a rock, or the person wants a tree put in a place with really, really hard soil, and you got to just keep digging and digging. But that's what she understood the work of achieving justice to be, is spade work. To go door to door and just talk to people and get rejected and try again and to pull together. She would have all these memos she'd send out to her supervisors, and they would say things like, I'm off now to another one of those meetings in a church basement where we're going to work on some things, and we're going to make some phone calls, and we're going to do something. It's all part of that spade work, all part of that spade work. So she would go into the community. She knew she was building something, but she knew that's what it was going to take. That's what it was going to take to achieve justice. It was not going to be quick. It was not going to be easy. You were going to have to do the hard thing. You were going to have to pick up the phone and just keep calling people, or going door to door, or having a whole bunch of conversations. And when she would evaluate, when she was supervising and she would evaluate local projects, the ones that were the healthiest were the ones where the local leaders, the local organizers were willing to do that spade work, that slow, patient work of building something before you can try to achieve change. Where it would really fizzle out was when people wanted something quick and they jumped into issues right away, and they just thought, well, we know what's wrong, let's go fix it, and they wouldn't engage in that slow, patient spade work that's required of justice. When I was organizing in Phoenix, I was assigned to a large immigrant neighborhood in the eastern part of Phoenix, to a local elementary school and a Catholic church. And I started organizing small group meetings, what we call house meetings, and one-on-one conversations. And over again, I heard these horrific stories about safety from all these immigrant leaders. Now, I moved to Phoenix a few months after, if you remember, when SB 1070 was signed into law. This is the big anti-immigrant legislation in Arizona that just instilled a deep, deep fear in the immigrant community, and that was its intent. And the biggest impact I learned locally when I would talk to undocumented immigrants in the community was what it did to their neighborhoods and neighborhood safety. Because overnight, hundreds of families left. Right away, when that law got signed, they left, went to other states, went back to Mexico in some cases. And it left all these abandoned properties and vacant homes and apartments, and organized crime moved in and preyed on these people. Just prey on them. The stories about broad daylight breaking into somebody's home and threatening them and saying, go ahead, call the police and I'll call ICE, I'll call immigration. Or people dealing drugs in the park right in front of their kids, kids just terrified to walk home from school. So all these stories about safety. And their biggest fear, obviously, was for their children. And I asked them, your children, so they're alone after school, huh? And they said, yeah, we work late, our kids get out of school, and then they've got to walk home from school by themselves, and they sit there, and they're terrified, sitting there all by themselves in the house or the apartment. And then they told me it wasn't always like that. There used to be an after-school program here. So what do you mean? So, yeah, we used to have an after-school program. They would get picked up at the school, they would go to the after-school program, they'd get dropped off right before we got home for work. It was perfect. And they didn't know what happened. So these leaders, they organized a meeting with the city of Phoenix, and they found out that during the Great Recession, 2008-2009 recession, the city budget took an impact, and the first thing to go were those after-school programs. It just got slashed. They used to have 83 after-school programs in the city of Phoenix, and overnight it went down to 25. And guess where those 25 programs were? They were in nice neighborhoods, wealthy neighborhoods, a place that had a lot of voters and campaign contributors. And they slashed them in all the poor parts of Phoenix, all the communities of color in Phoenix. So we knew we had a situation here. We also found out it wasn't just after school programs. They had cut library hours. They closed swimming pools. Imagine closing swimming pools in Phoenix in the summertime. But they also knew they didn't have enough power by themselves to change it, because they met with their local city councilman, and he was angry about it because he lost all the programs in his neighborhood. So they reached out to other parishes and other schools in other parts of Phoenix and other city council districts, and they asked them, have you experienced this? And they heard more stories about this reduction in services. So they organized a strategy working with congregations, parishes all across the city in every single city council district to organize around the city budget hearings and to show up every single time in different places in your own district and tell stories of those impacts. And then they'd go back into the parishes and the congregations and organize workshops and teach people, here's how the city budget works. Here's who our council member is. Here's when the next workshop is. Here's what you can do. And they did this for months. For months they did this work. And they finally had a meeting with the city manager, and the city manager presented to them a draft budget where he was going to increase current after-school programs by 60%, get them back up to 40, down from 83 to 25, but back up to 40 in still a tough budget year. He said, well, this is not everything, but this is a win. This is change. This is what change looks like. So they all showed up at the final city council vote when that budget was presented. They watched as one by one, all the council members voted yes for this new budget that would restore these programs despite many other cuts they were still making. And finally it was adopted, and they cheered, and they went out to the parking lot, and these leaders, these undocumented immigrant leaders who had started out in fear and had now watched as they'd organized this slow, patient process to get a win. And their city councilman came running out of the council chambers. We were in the parking lot just evaluating, talking. He came running over to the group. I thought, oh no, did something go wrong, or what happened? And he ran up and he was almost in tears. And he turned to one of the women in the group, this woman, Martha Espinosa. He said, Martha, I've never seen anything like that with this city council in a tough budget year like this. I want you to know this only happened because of you. This only happened because of you and what you did. He said, I'm going to make sure the first program that gets reopened is in your neighborhood, and your kids are in it. That kind of change was possible because those women, those leaders, they were willing to do that spade work. They were willing to do the slow, patient work of building towards achieving change, and because they had the capacity to do it all along. I mean, their leadership, their talent, their effort, their energy, and their passion for it because of how it was affecting their families and their children, that's out there in our community too. We just have to invest in it. We just have to pay attention to it, and it's there and can achieve great things. Ella Baker had a real bias towards local work. She would have their chapters of Southern Christian Leadership Conference, of SNCC, the NAACP, focus locally. She thought local issues are a reflection of big national struggles. They play out locally, and pay attention locally. And finally, she believed in being relational. There's another great leader in the civil rights movement, a man who I got to know kind of later in his life, named Bob Moses. He's a great organizer in Mississippi. He went to go work for Ella Baker at the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And what he said is he had the choice of going to work with Dr. King, with SCLC, or going to work with Ella Baker. And he chose Ella Baker. And he said, because I could just tell she cared about me. She just cared. She took an interest in me. And I wanted to work with somebody like that. And so Ella Baker was relational. She paid attention to people. And it's that kind of relationality which we believe in that gives us the power to do these things. There's a great Unitarian philosopher named Bernard Loomer who teaches about relational power, the type of power that's different from unilateral top-down power, but it's relational, that's shared, that's possible when people come together around a common agenda, and it grows, it's expansive the more diverse the group of people that are coming together becomes. I was in the community of Allensworth earlier this week. I don't know if you've been reading about or hearing about what's gone on in Allensworth, a historical African-American farming community in Tulare County. and their leaders there, they're interested in the IAF and being part of our organization, as they've recently been getting flooded out of Allensworth. In fact, having people cut the levee near Allensworth in a way that made the water flow towards their community. And I was meeting with them the other day in their community center down there, and just in this room with incredible leaders, incredible talent, incredible imagination and potential, these incredible leaders. And what they said to me, they said, look, we don't need help on resources. We don't need help on policy. We got that. We've got to figure it. They have a community plan. They're getting money from the state. I mean, they got things figured out. But what they said is we need help with relationships. We're isolated. We know each other. We don't have relationships in Fresno. We don't have relationships on the other side of our county. And in fact, we don't even have some of the relationships in our own community as the community has changed. The community is now about 90% Latino, and these African-American leaders are having a tough time connecting to their local community. So that's what we want to figure out. How do we deepen relationships? And so they get it. They understand what this work is about and how we're going to create long-term sustainable change. There's a lot we have to do here. There's a lot. There's a lot here in this valley. I mean, at this very moment, right now, there are people in this community who would be conspiring against the values that you're professing here. In this right now, people are thinking about how do they work, how will they organize themselves, how will they achieve power to fight against some of the values you've lifted up this morning. In fact, probably not too far from this campus, right? They're thinking about things like that. So if we're going to do anything about that, if we're going to achieve that just, equitable Valley, Fresno community, we have to be in it for building long-term, sustainable relational power. We have to be willing to do, as Ella Baker points out, that spade work, that slow, patient, day in, day out work of building something together, so that we can take on some of what we need to change here in this valley. I'm very appreciative of this church, your leadership, and those of you that have been involved and connected with us. It's been so great to have UU Fresno as part of the IAF organization. You bring so much to us. There's a lot more that we need to do, but we have to have congregations, institutions like this, that just as there are those out there that are conspiring to suppress these values, we have to be conspiring together and thinking together and building power together in a way that we can achieve the type of community, the type of Fresno that we want to see. So thank you so much for allowing me to be here with you this morning. And again, thank you for being part of what we are too. Thank you.
One, two, three, four.
Money in your hands, all the possessions anyone can ever have, but it's all worthless treasure. True worth is only measured not by what you got, but what you have in your heart. You can have everything, but what does it mean? It all means nothing if you don't stand up for something. You can't just talk the talk, you got to walk that walk. Yes, you do. It all means nothing if you don't stand up for something. And I'll stand up for you. And I'll stand up for you. Yes, I will. Yes, I will. You do the best to do the the best that you can do. Then you can look in the mirror, proud of who's looking back at you. Define the life you're living, not by what you take, but what you're giving. And if you bet on love, there's no way you'll ever lose. Take a stand for what's right. It's always worth the fight. It all means nothing if you don't stand up for something. You can't just talk the talk, you got to walk that walk. Yes, you do. It all means nothing if you don't stand up for something. And I'll stand up for you. Self-respect, dignity. If that's all you got, then you got all you need. And without that, you don't have a thing. Rise up, love, lift your hands. I stand with you cause I understand. Ain't here to judge, just to take a stand. The greater plans, the creator's plan. Let's all rise like the day began. Reach out and touch one another's hand. On rock we stand like it's native land. Let the ways of love help us understand. It all means nothing if you don't stand up for something. You can't just talk the talk, you've got to walk that walk. Yes, you do. It all means nothing if you don't stand up for something. And I'll stand up for you.
Stand up, stand for you.
I'll stand up for you. I'll stand up for you. I'll stand up for you. Yes, I will. Yes, I will.
Nwachuku, Stolen Thunder. So how many folks want Nwachuku to come back and sing again? So once a month, we hold a special offering for an organization or an individual whose work out in the community is in alignment with our spiritual values as Unitarian Universalists. The great resistor of empire, Cornel West, famously said, "Justice is what love looks like in public." Our commitment to justice as Unitarian Universalists isn't just justice work, it's spiritual practice. It is part of our spirituality. So once a month, we invite an organization. The organization we're featuring today is well known by many of us because many of the founders and many of the continuation of Wings came from this congregation. Please welcome our own Debbie and Sharon on behalf of Wings.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you to the Justice Committee for selecting Wings for this offering. As many of you know, as Tim mentioned, UU Church has had a long affiliation with Wings. Many of you have volunteered your time and talents to Wings, and our beloved founders include Karen Goodman and Bev Fitzpatrick, and I know Bev is watching, so big shout out to Bev, we love you. And also Anna Hecker and Marianne Lecomte. These ladies were very active doing homeless outreach in the community, and as a part of that, they heard from many clients and people that they were being moved into low-income housing, but that there was nothing in the studios or apartments or homes they were moving into, and they had no way to purchase it themselves, so they were essentially moving into empty rooms or empty apartments. And they realized there was a niche that needed to be filled, a need out there, and so from that, Wings was born. And so what we do is we serve formerly homeless clients who are either coming off the streets or out of shelters, and we provide what they need to make a home out of their low-income housing. So we provide linens, kitchen items, furniture, cleaning products. We give everybody what we call a welcome basket, which is what we have right here, and Sharon will talk a little bit more about what goes into that. All of that is donated from generous donations by the community, and we have a whole team of volunteers that makes this happen. There are currently no paid positions at Wings. Everyone is a volunteer, so everyone goes way above and beyond what they signed up for. We have a team that puts together what they ask for. We work with the case managers and social workers of the clients to find out exactly what they need and what they're lacking, and we try to personalize that and pull that together once a week. Then we have a delivery team that goes out all over Fresno and Clovis and actually delivers these items directly to the clients and sometimes helps them set things up. And we have a Saturday crew who organizes the warehouse and is there for the pickups that come in. We have another crew that goes out all over town picking up the donations from the community. So all of this is done by volunteers. The clients that we serve are a variety. There are single mothers with children. There are vets, often with PTSD addiction issues. There are people coming straight out of recovery programs. Women fleeing domestic violence. We serve several Marjorie Mason clients every week. Older people, disabled people, a wide variety of clients. And they come to us through all kinds of social service agencies, including the VA, Marjorie Mason, Turning Point, West Care, RH Community Builders. We get clients from all over. So when we roll up, the clients are very excited and happy to see us, especially because we bring beds. New beds and new bed pillows are two of the things that we do actually purchase. We don't use used beds. We're not allowed to do that. And they are very excited because for many of them, you know, it's the first time they've had a bed for a long time. In fact, we always laugh because the sound we hear most often when we roll up is as the air mattresses are going down, because they're either sleeping on an air mattress, on a sleeping bag on the floor, or on the floor itself, and that includes the children. So they are very, very excited when we roll up with mattresses. And so we want to thank all of you that have been so generous in the community, and Sharon's going to tell you about our wish list.
And we got lots of wishes. We wish to be able to furnish those homes. And for that, we need donations. You can donate gently used furniture, sofas, tables, microwaves, kitchen utensils. We try and pick these things up. But to do so, we need more than anything volunteers. Volunteers for a Saturday crew, just one day a month. 3 or 4 hours, a crew of 3, go pick up the items. Unfortunately, there is some lifting involved. Otherwise, we women would be out there doing it ourselves.
Thank you so much, Sharon. We really appreciate your passion. Thank you. In this spirit, let us join in our words of offering. If not us, then who? If not open hearts, then what? If not now, then when? If not here, then where? If not generously, then how? If not us, then who? You know a slide's going to appear showing ways that you can contribute to Wings. Every dollar you give today will go to this fine organization. Applause for Wings. We invite you to use Cash App right now. So, we are going back to an automobile somewhere in Reno, Nevada. Ida Jones.
In a moment, the flame for our chalice will be extinguished for another week. But before that happens, I want to honor the fact that you've taken time, whether present in the Alluvial campus, watching from the virtual campus, or setting aside time later. For the last 3 years, I've attended services on the virtual campus, and it's been a lifesaver. Nearly every week, my son and I attend the service and afterwards discuss the message. Thanks for allowing us to connect in this way to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno. Please join us in our chalice extinguishing words led by Karen and Troy.
Extinguimos esta llama, pero no la luz de la verdad, el calor de comunidad o el fuego de nuestro compromiso. Estos los llevaremos en el corazón. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts.
Goodbye from our virtual campus, and I gently toss it back to Reverend Tim on our Alluvial Avenue campus.
Let's hear it for Ida. How many people noticed her car door and the wind just slowly opening and closing there? I loved it, only in the virtual campus. So a few quick reminders, and then we're sending you out into this glorious spring morning. Exit, we ask you allow our socially distanced folks to exit first, and the rest of you are invited to follow along out into the quad for coffee hour. There will be this is very important, very important. I know each and every one of you wants to meet Tim McManus. Even more than that, I know at least 10 of you are going to say, I want to get involved with IAF today. How do I do that? If any of the IAF folks today who are part of the congregations team are here, could you just stand for a second? There's some of us here today. Hooray, hooray. Tim will be out in the quad and really wants to meet you, and we'll want at least 10 of you to say, yes, I want to get involved because I want to be part of that Spade work. Also outside, after you talk to Tim, you can go to our question and answer table and meet with a member of our board of trustees. This is for folks who are new or newish, and it is Mark today. Who wouldn't want to hang out with Mark? Mark promises he has all the answers to any question about Unitarian Universalism and about the church, so he'll be at the table with the big visitors sign. Also today, you can join Ellis Vance after the service for our Earth Day workshop called Our Planet, Our Purpose, an environmental justice-focused workshop with a focus on indigenous principles and actions that will help us protect our water and our resources. I know Connie will be there. There will be a craft table set up for kids as well, so the whole family can stay for this multi-generational experience. Mark your calendars. Coming up, I think it's just 2 weeks now, May 7th is our church picnic on our Alluvial Ave campus. We're just going to shift up to Railroad Park. Those are the reminders. Now, I'm really excited because this is the time where we welcome folks who are visiting the congregation for the first, second, or third time. We don't do this to embarrass you. You could have been anywhere. You chose to be here, and that is a gift to us. I'm just going to point out that one of our first-time visitors today has the most amazing boots in the sanctuary. They are just like awesome. So if this is your first, second, or third time, could you just rise for a moment? We won't leave you standing alone for long. Just rise. Welcome, 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 welcome. I invite, Patty Bennett, is going to be offering a tour of the campus as well today, so meet her right there at the steps. I invite the rest of the congregation to rise, and let's join hands or put our hands over our heart for our closing words, and then our sung benediction. Our closing words come from De La Speinberg Guzman. Very short, one sentence. I love it. It is not knowledge that transforms us, but the action we take on what we know. May it be so. Let's sing.
2, 3.
Shalom and assalamu alaikum.
2, 3, 4.